Yeah, I can hear you. How are you?
Hey, I'm sorry, I was just finishing a phone call. I missed the first couple of minutes.
Hi everyone, my name is 𝗦𝘁𝗿 and I'm a senior advisor at the growth stage. So we're a capital raising platform focused on later stage businesses. So companies already scaling, maybe looking to raise a series B or C round or later, right up to pre-IPO round. So we help them raise institutional capital. Outside of that, I'm also a mentor at Founder Institute. So I have a lot of experience mentoring and guiding founders from their very earliest stages, from ideation through to MVP and go-to-market strategy, things like that. So hopefully I'll be able to offer some advice today that could be helpful. And over to you, Guy.
There's 𝗦𝘁𝗿𝗙. So my background, chartered accountant, worked in corporate finance for Deloitte and Peel Hunt, then moved into private markets and managed a VC fund, investing into UK universities to spin out, and then have subsequently set up my own business with 3 other founding partners. We are looking to invest into all areas of food and agriculture, all from startup stage to farmland in Australia. We're about to launch our first strategy, which is Australian farmland, with institutional backing, and then possibly looking to raise money into the business as well. So kind of worn a few different hats over my time, and having gone from the investor stage, I'm now at the founder stage, so can offer advice on that.
Thank you, Guy. Alessandro, are you able to talk?
Yes.
Alessandro, yeah, go on.
I just have to unmute myself. Yeah, thank you so much, Anton. Sorry for the delay, but yeah, I'm able to talk. So I'm Alessandro. I've been living in England for the last 30 years, originally Italian. My background is in investment banking, entrepreneur since 2008, and investors since 2014. Officially, always been an investor. And I run a company called 𝗦𝘁𝗙, which is a London-based FCA-regulated financial advisory company that supports entrepreneurs and impact fund managers with their investor readiness, fundraising, and growth strategies. I love connecting the dots across different spheres of human knowledge, from personal values and purpose to business models and making money, to impact, all the way to what drives us as individuals. And I'm ready to answer any questions around startups, fundraisings, and entrepreneurship in general. Thank you all.
Well, thank you very much to all 3 of you. How about one do and one don't when it comes to early stage fundraising? Guy, Tommy, and Alessandro, please.
Yeah, I'd say to have your value proposition very, very clearly laid out. It's a bit of a cliche, but what is the problem that you're trying to solve for, and what is the solution that you have that is, better than anything else that is out there, and how ultimately you're going to monetize that, because that will, that will get investor interest. In terms of don'ts, I think it's difficult because there's a lot going on. It's busy, but just try not to miss out on any kind of conversations, introductions. The number of, having now crossed the fence, the number of introductions we've had through kind of warm introductions to other people that might help. You have a lot of conversations, but every now and again you get one that's absolutely golden, and you've just got to, don't turn these things down. Just go to as many events as possible, have as many conversations as you can, and just you never know, you might have 100 conversations, but if one of them is useful, that could be the difference between your business making it or breaking it.
So something actually I'll pick up a little bit on what Guy touched on. I'd say as a do is, whenever your Guy said, talking about or demonstrating how you're going to monetize your idea, it has become more of a focus for investors at early stages. So, with the evolution over the last sort of 12 to 18 months of vibe coding, software is pretty easily copied. So it's no longer, a moat to have a good platform unless you've something truly deep tech and really IP rich. If it's just more software, it's easily copied. So investors want to see a much more well thought out go-to-market strategy, how you're going to go and win customers. And it can't just be a paid ads model, because that's money down the toilet and a race to the bottom. You really need to think about how you're actually going to get to customers, how you're better at that, how you're clever about it, how you're going to get them on, as well as showing some early traction. So thinking really deeply about your go-to-market strategy is something that will be able to set you apart. You can build a moat around that if you're clever. And don't, I would say, is, whilst guys said to network and go out and have all those conversations, whenever it comes to your fundraise, don't waste time sending your investment pitch to investors that aren't going to invest. So, if you're a healthcare startup, don't go sending your deck to a fund that only invests in fintech. They're not going to look at it. You're wasting your time and theirs. So that sounds obvious, but there are nuances in it. So make sure you're doing proper research on the investors you want to actually reach out to, and then also personalizing your messages to them. So saying, oh, I think you'd be great, or I'd love to talk to you because you've invested in this, or you have a thesis on this which links to us. So take the time to personalize your approach.
Excellent. So what I'll add to that is do your homework. And that sounds maybe very basic, but it's very common to see founders overlooking things like doing a proper business plan, or thinking through in detail the credibility of their assumptions in the business plans, or really understanding their market, product market fit, strategic positioning, strategic out, all about preparing professional pitch decks and data rooms, and also competition as well. Oftentimes, you hear these big statements that their company is the best, or they're only doing certain thing, as if it's a matter of pride. But at the end of the day, I can demonstrate, one, not understanding really the market, or two, not really understanding, what the total potential for their businesses is. So do your homework and your research. In terms of don'ts, I would really say that the top one for me is don't second guess investors. So what I mean by that is it's extremely important to have a very strategic design of the investor engagement journey, and being as authentic as possible in the way that you engage with investors, asking lots of questions as well, showing that confidence that it's a two-way relationship that you want to build, and being very tactical about the journey that you're taking the investors through, in order to be comfortable with yourself, your team, your technology, your business, and your strategy and everything else, without double guessing what they have in their mind. Actually go and ask those questions yourself.
That is amazing, all three of you. Thank you very much, and really appreciated. I guess it's time we go into some questions. Just a quick reset before we go forwards. This is Startup Fundraising Q&A 152. We're here to help founders with whatever questions you may have. Can you hear? Yes, indeed. We're here to help founders with whatever questions you may have in terms of your fundraising journey. Whether you want to know when's the right time. Actually, whether you want to know if you should fundraise in the first place. And then when's the right time, who to go to. Is it a angel matter? Is it a crowdfunding campaign, a grant, a loan, a VC? How do you do it? What are the steps that you follow? Or perhaps, how do you get a pitch deck done, or prepare your data room? Or how do you deal with valuations, due diligence, and all that jazz? There are literally no wrong questions, and there's no need to be shy, because it's a learning curve for us all. If you've got any such questions, we're going to be here with these amazing panelists until 1 p.m. So that's 43 minutes, and that goes quite fast. So my advice would be not to leave it to last second to ask questions, because when that happens, we run out of time. Now, if your questions are not on fundraising, then you can save them for the other conversations we host. On Mondays, it's talent; Tuesdays, product and tech; Wednesdays, growth; Thursdays, fundraising; Second Friday of each month, it's UK Startup Law. And third Friday of each month, it's UK Startup Finances. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. And they're all available on our website, startuptoscaleup.club. And actually, when you go to our website, you can also find a WhatsApp community that you can join. At the top and bottom of our site, there's a WhatsApp icon. If you click on that, there's some interesting groups of founders and investors and operators, and of course, our panelists/mentors as well. Now, for those of you that are on the live streams, please be aware that unfortunately we are unable to monitor your questions there live. So you'll have to join us here on Microsoft Teams. It's audio only, and the quickest way to do that is to do it via our website. So if you go to startuptoscaleup.club, scroll down a little bit, you'll see today's session called Startup Fundraising Q&A 152. Click join. It's a quick registration that gets you a link to your email, and through that link, you can then join us here. As I said, it's audio only, which means you can join us from anywhere, by any platform or device. Once here, simply drop your question in the chat, and then we'll give you the mic and you can ask our team. And just before we go to our first question, which I've put in the chat, since Richard joined us now as well, let's give Richard a chance to introduce himself, and then I'll read out the question. Richard, are you audible? Richard, I have made you a presenter, so I'm not sure why. It might take a little bit. If you have a look at a link that I've sent onto our LinkedIn chat with the other panelists, so not the ones that you and I were talking, but the ones that I sent to all the panelists, if you log out from here and try that, that should work. And another thing that should work is maybe if you change device, i.e. maybe go to your phone and try and do it via there, the MS Teams app. Right. Well, until Richard sorts that out, let me read this out loud for the live streams, and then maybe we can go to
sorry, I'm
Tommy,
sorted.
Alessandro. No,
Sorry.
you're sorted now?
Yeah, sorry,
right.
apologise. I'm having all sorts of tech issues this morning. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Thank you for joining us. Would you like to introduce yourself, Richard?
I will. I'll make it quick. Hi, everyone. I'm Richard Christina. I run numerous programs in the form of startup accelerators, Founder Institute being one, and I run several student accelerators for various universities across the UK. Yeah, look forward to the discussion.
Nice to meet you, Richard.
Brilliant. So let me now read this question out loud. Where's the bleeding thing? It's in the chat, by the way, panelists, in case you want to go through it. But this is from a digital mental health founder. She's based in Manchester, seed stage. She used to be a psychotherapist. Actually, sorry, she says she studied to be a psychotherapist. So I'm not sure if she became one. Our app offers guided CBT sessions and is seeing early success. However, potential investors have raised concerns about high churn rates in mental health apps. What strategies can I employ to mitigate these concerns and present a clear retention plan in our pitch? We'll just tell them the high churn rates are because we make them feel better. All right, jokes aside, what would you do here? I think Alessandro is unmuted, so that's fine. We can go to Alessandro, then Tommy, then Guy, and then Richard. Let's keep it at a minute each, please, gentlemen.
Yeah, so it's quite a technical question, and for a very specific B2C business, I guess. But what comes to mind on the spot is first and foremost to understand the reasons for the high churn in the industry, and maybe analyzing based on the different competitors what the reasons, the real reason could be. from user experience to improvement in health conditions, as you said, Anton, to people just signing up but not really needing it. So really getting to the bottom of the underlying reasons for the phenomena. And secondly, what I would do is it seems to me that this is a very early stage company that doesn't have clients. So maybe the issue is not there yet. So what the founder could do is to have a very cohesive and understandable description of what the solution they have come up with is in terms of addressing these, the challenges that they've identified in the competition. So understanding the market dynamics, understanding the client acquisition process, client acquisition costs, and creating tools, methodologies, and KPIs to monitor and reduce the risk of churn in the app would probably be something that, if makes sense, might bring investors over the line. But I don't think I know enough about the sector and the specific consumer segment to add more.
Mr. Brain, are you with us? Thank you, Alessandro.
Oh yeah, sorry.
No, that's
so
right.
there's a few things in this. Like, I mean, investors are asking these questions because these mental health apps have like proven really, really difficult to work. And I would say, like, at a very high level, like asking the question, how can you present a clear retention plan in your pitch, is like, my question would be back to the founder. What is the retention plan? If you're going forward with this business, like, you should be more worried about the churn and the unit economics than the investors, because at the end of the day, like, you're trying to build a business. And what I would say is, like, CBT is, you kind of go through whatever number of sessions you do and you finish it, and that's kind of the end of it. So if that's all you're offering, it's going to be very difficult. If you take a look at something like Headspace, that built their business differently, and they started with a subscription app that wasn't direct therapy. They've added therapy in there now, so there's actually therapists on their app. So maybe you could think about, what would people want to use daily or weekly after they've finished their CBT, or can the therapist give them plans that can be in the app so they can have stuff in there? But it's just such a competitive space, and the trouble is, the unit economics of these businesses are just really, really tough. And so as I said in my do at the start, thinking about your go-to-market strategy, and if your strategy at the moment is to go out and spend marketing dollars to try and win customers, it's just going to be so difficult for it ever to work, for the unit economics to really work. So, unless maybe you can go out and you can find a better way to acquire customers cheaper. Maybe you can build an online community of followers that you can dip into, or find ones that you can get into. But, I think overall, you maybe need to just take a step back and not think so much about what the investors are asking, but just thinking about how this business really looks to you. How are you going to acquire customers? How much is it actually going to cost? Have you tested that funnel? How quickly can you pay back that acquisition cost? And is the lifetime value of the customer enough to even make it profitable on a unit economic basis first, never mind trying to have them stick around for, a year or more as subscribers? But can you actually get that CAC payback from whatever their first sign up is? So I would actually spend a bit more time testing the unit economics yourself before you're talking to investors.
I think it's me now.
Thank you very much. Yes, Guy, go ahead.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, I think it's been some pretty good comments thus far from Tommy and Alessandro. But I was going to say, look, beyond what they've said, are there different subscription models that you can explore that can kind of make customers a bit stickier? It's kind of, are there discounts you can offer if they purchase more sessions, all those kind of things that might help, or referrals, and just looking at different subscriber models? And then, are there companies that you could potentially partner with who could provide your app alongside their offering, you know, who might be able to get you kind of bigger reach, and then you can come to an agreement with them about some sort of royalty scheme or whatever that looks like. But can you tag along off the back of someone else's of reach? The only example I can think of off the hook was partnering with a gambling firm who might kind of want to provide a sort of ESG or social kind of awareness campaign alongside that. But there will be better companies that you could potentially explore looking to partner with, and better sectors than that.
Last but not least, Richard, please.
Look, I think a lot of it's been said without rehashing. So I'm just going to say, talk to your customers. I agree with Tommy's comments. You know, how can you increase the life cycle of this customer? You know, how can you add more value in terms of other services to increase that life cycle? That's what I'd be looking at. I'd completely pull it away from an investor perspective. This is very much what, you know, we work on. This is very much a product validation customer problem. But definitely talk to your customers. Don't assume building extra features that, you know, they'll use them and want to buy them and so on. But, you know, validate and validate again, and just keep talking to your customers. They'll soon tell you what they're willing to pay for. I do like, guys, thoughts, you know, affiliate marketing is what I had down, and even an advertising model, you know, done well, it's actually okay. You know, because if they're looking at you know, revenue, different revenue opportunities and revenue models, that's something that you could also look at. You know, what other like-minded companies can you partner up with and get some affiliate revenue in as well? But at the top for me is, how do you increase the value to the customer to have them stay on and, you know, extend their subscription, etc., which is really rehashing what's been said already. But I reiterate that I think that's a very ideal way to look at this problem.
Anton, can I add something? Because you came up with a joke, you know, when the question came, which is, you know, maybe you want to have, you know, a very high churn because the app actually works. So, you know, what if you turn the table around a little bit and you create the most effective, you know, CBT app in the world that has the highest churn because everyone, you know, improves so quickly. You save so much money to your customers because they get better much quicker than anyone else. So your churn means that you are the highest growing, you know, the fastest growing app in the world in solving, you know, mental health problems in the world, which is, you know, since COVID has been going through the roof. So actually, with the second, you know, your joke as actually a different way of approaching the problem, focusing on exactly what Richard was saying about, you know, the client. But the objective here is not to make as much money as possible from the client. The issue is, the objective is, and the purpose of the company is to get people better. And if they can make money in doing that, it means that everyone will refer the app because it's the best in the world. So let's not always focus just on making investors happy and making money at the expense of the customer. The customer is paying because they get value out of the app. So let's go back to the fundamentals of why business exists and make sure that the churn actually could be the positive in building a very, very high growth company, because everyone will recommend it.
I think that if I can add to that, Anton, I think that's very smart and intelligent. I have been told that some friends of using a dating app that says, I can't remember which one it is, but says that our job is to get you off this app. So, you know, I think that's, you know, I think there's something in that as well. But look, at the end of the day, yeah, you're right. Not at the cost of the customer, just to sell them whatever you can sell them to, or whatever to get, you know, the investors happy. But at the end of the day, they're going to want to see a return on their money. I mean, the investors in the room will tell you this. I'm not an investor, but I often hear what they, you know, they're looking for, and the obvious one is a return on investment. So if it means extending the services, but, you know, like I said, be customer centric. The customer will tell you what services they will want. I'm surprised that, look, I'm not a specialist by any means in therapy, but I'm surprised that it's like a one fixed job. Like, right, fine. I would see there's lots of things to explore in terms of the product, and in revisiting, say, after a 3-month period, checking in with the customer, or a 6-month period. So I think there's ways for this product to extend their customer life cycle, like a care package of some kind. I'm not here to solve the problem, but there's lots of ideas that could be explored with the product.
And I just, following on from my point, Anton, the way it was pitched makes it sound like a B2C model, and maybe looking at that corporate model might make more sense than your B2B. So you bring in customer concentration risk at that point, but equally you bring in larger contracts and stickiness if you're delivering them. Do you talk to universities about being able to roll this out to their student population? Or do you talk to, I don't know, like Age UK or charities who are looking after elderly people who might be lonely? It's can you identify pockets of people who are more likely to be suffering from kind of mental health issues, and then you identify the businesses or who have the stakeholders that they need to look after within that. It could be corporates who are worried that their workforce are stressed, or like Teach First are worried about their graduate cohort who are worried, about starting a new job, all that kind of stuff. So then maybe you're pivoting into more of a B2B model, which brings that stickiness.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. 𝗦𝘁 just announced that they've raised the largest round in European history. This is a B series at 1.1 billion. Not sure if you guys know, 𝗦𝘁 does kind of AI cloud, basically. And I'm sure nobody gave them money without showing some traction. And it seems to me that this CBD company, like 99% of startups out there, want to get money from investors to build an idea, not to go further. And some of you have invested in the past. All of you have been long enough around investors in the investment world that, investors don't give money to people to build something, but they give money to people to go to the next stage. And it's a tough one. I'm trying to play devil's advocate whilst also trying to be kind and encouraging to you for this app. But you've got to find a way to move on to the next stage. Once you move on to the next stage, then you'll find it easier to get the investors. But I definitely concur. I think it was mainly Guy, but the others might have mentioned it as well. If you find a way to bring in the B2B, and Richard also mentioned some advertising, if you find a way to bring some B2B money into it, you'll probably find it easier to de-risk it in terms of your potential investors. And to do that, might be a good idea to get some LOIs, letters of intent. Now, they may mean nothing to most people and most investors, but maybe the right investor will see that as a good omen. If you get enough people that will say, look, once this is ready, we're willing to engage with you. Tell us when. Simple as that. Right. We've got 23 minutes to go. Maybe we can go on to another question. People that are on the call here on Microsoft Teams are being awfully shy, but please don't be. And the ones that are in the live streams, please be aware that unfortunately we can't monitor your questions there live. So whilst we're thankful that you're tuning in, it doesn't really do us or you any good, actually. One, if you're here with us on Microsoft Teams, it makes for a much better conversation. And two, if you're here with your questions rather than sending it in, you are way more likely to get a better answer that works for you, because our panelists can also kind of go back and forth and ask you to clarify certain things. So If you do want to get unstuck and get some help, go to startuptoscaleup.club, scroll down a little bit, hit join under Startup Fundraising Q&A 152. It's a quick registration. That gets you a link to your email, and through that link, you can join us here. It's audio only, which means you can join from anywhere, where any platform or device. And once you're here, simply drop your question in the chat. We'll give you the mic, and you can ask the lads here. We'll go on to our next question. This is an online educational platform for adult learners based in Edinburgh. And okay, so pre-seed goes on to say our current situation is that we're developing an online learning platform for adult learners with early engagement data, but no revenue. My question is, we're an educational tech startup focused on adult learners currently pre-revenue and seeking pre-seed funding. How should we communicate our valuation to early investors when lacking revenue but processing strong engagement metrics from early testers? Would it be prudent to use comparable edtech valuations in the UK market, or should we focus on engagement data to defend our projected growth? Additionally, how can we set realistic valuation caps if we decide on a convertible note? Pass it on to the specialist, but at this stage, forget about valuation. Just be very clear and come across very sane, not like somebody who's just licked his finger, lifted up in the air, and made up some figure that he wants to raise. So be very purposeful about how much is it that you need, and explain that well, and then let the investors work out the valuation. Let's see what Richard, Guy, Alessandro, and Tommy got to say on this.
Yeah, interesting
and
one.
A minute each, please, team.
Yeah, sure. Okay, I'll try to be minutes. Look, EdTech's my space. I'm assuming this is a B2C. The first thing I would ask you is, what is unique about this product, this business? Is there anything patentable? That's going to make a huge difference to your valuation. If not, then, you know, I don't really understand the comment, you know, I've got strong engagement metrics from testers. You know, I'd be saying, so what to that, brutally, unless you've got something a little bit more tangible, which is, you know, letters of intent, and things like that. And, you know, being a B2C, you'd want a number of them. Otherwise, you are going to need to come back to a similar valuation, as you've already hinted at, similar market valuation of a similar edtech company. Convertible notes, look, I'll let the guys talk about that a bit more, but that's definitely going to depend on you, your team, your tech, and the stage. And we know the stage, so your pre-revenue and your convertible note will be influenced by that for sure. But I'll hand that over to the others to talk about.
So, opposite of Richard, I know very little about the edtech space, but I think it's a really interesting question, because I reckon you'll get a different answer from all of us on this, because at that stage of company, you're very much into art evaluation rather than science. So yes, go through the comparable, you know, the comparables as you've suggested, but it may be quite difficult to actually get a realistic valuation out of that, given your early, excuse me, given your early stage. So maybe it comes down to saying, well, how much of the business actually do you want to give away, and what do you need to raise to achieve meaningful milestones in the next 12 to 18 months? Add a little buffer to that and go out and say, well, we only want to give away 10, 15, 20% of the company at this stage. We're very early stage. And, you know, see if that's where that kind of valuation comes out. On the valuation cap side, I mean, that's, you know, that's investor protection rather than from your end. So if it was me, I wouldn't offer it to start with. But obviously, if an investor comes back, which they probably will do, with the valuation cap, you know, then you kind of have to assess that at the time and kind of let them dictate it. And if you're comfortable with it, go for it. And if you're not, then that's a discussion you need to have with them. Yeah, that would, as I said, I suspect you'll get different answers from everyone. It'll be interesting to hear.
I think I'm next, Anton, right? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think I have the feeling that maybe the founder didn't really provide a lot of background on the business and where they stand. So it feels a little bit that they're jumping the gun in terms of asking a premature question on valuation of a very, very early stage business. But because that's what they're looking at, what I would say is that, in my experience, the best methodology to assess the value of very early stage companies is the venture capital method, which means that you need to build a very credible business plan and project what the company will look like in the future, and determine the net present value of that future value today, based on comparables and interest rates and market returns and risk-adjusted returns. And by doing so, you have to go through the whole process of building a very credible strategy and business plan, and going through the whole process of determining what assumptions you're making, linking the current traction to the expected turnover of the business. And going through that process will be extremely valuable to the company, but also will show to investors that a lot of the answers that they will have should probably have been answered, in that process. And there are also advisors out there that can probably help with that if need be. So seek help if you think that would be useful.
Thank you, Alessandro. Tommy?
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add. As Rich kind of said, it's a bit light on info, so without knowing if it's B2B or B2C, that probably changes what kind of advice it'd give here. And it's not really clear as well what the testing has been like. Is there actually like a viable MVP? I mean, if there is an MVP, people are using it and engagement is good. Do you need money to add more features or to add more content? But I don't know, is there a way that you can actually start trying to, if you've got good engagement with an MVP, why not start trying to charge now? Like, what's the blocker to generating revenue? So I would also think if it's a B2C, you could have a quicker path to trying to start charge people and see if people will pay for it if the engagement metrics are good. But without having more details in this type of business, I can't really offer a lot more, I don't think.
And so I was going to add one other comment, which is mentioned here. It's an angel syndicate. So if you're going down the convertible, I'm looking at the next one. Anyway, it's an Edinburgh-based startup. There may well be angel investment coming in there, and they typically like to come in on an EIS ticket, which you're not going to be able to do on a convertible. So you would have to look at maybe an ASA. It's just a technical point.
Can you explain to everybody what ASA is, please, Guy?
Pretty similar, but you essentially advanced subscription agreements. So you invest your money, at a point in time, and basically saying that your valuation will be set at some point in the future. With the IS, you typically get a 6-month long stop. So the company, if it's building around together but perhaps needs the money now, may offer an incentive for investors to come in a little bit earlier before the price has actually been set. And then when that price is set within the next 6 months, those ASAs will convert into equity, sometimes with a little discount to kind of incentivize people to put their money in early. And then if you hit the long stop, you just convert automatically at a valuation that's predetermined.
Thank you very much for that, Guy. Right, we've got 13 minutes to go, and this is Startup Fundraising Q&A 152. We're here to help founders with whatever questions you have on your fundraising journey. There are literally no wrong questions and no need to be shy. If you're following us via the live streams, please remember, whether that's LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, that we are unfortunately unable to monitor those questions live. So you'd have to go to startuptoscaleup.club in order to join us here on Microsoft Teams.
It's audio only, which means you can join us from anywhere via any platform or device. When you're on our site, simply scroll down to Startup Fundraising Q&A 152. You click join. It's a quick registration that gets you a link to your email, and through that link, then you can join us. When you're here, drop your question in the chat. We'll give you the mic, and then the panelists will answer it. I'm actually liking this next question. I'm going to read it out loud for the live streams, and if the panelists can take turns in answering it, that'd be great. So this is from a marketplace for second-hand luxury goods in London. They're at seed stage. I believe she came through via the Go London local partnership that we have. So she says, raising seed funds from a diverse angel syndicate, each with different views on ROI timelines. And then goes on to ask, we're raising seed funds for our luxury second-hand marketplace from a mixed angel syndicate, but ROI timeline expectations vary widely. How can we manage this diversity to avoid friction, perhaps through some phased investment milestones or clear exit benchmarks? Are there best practices in the UK for setting structured returns for syndicates in consumer tech sectors? Wow, this is a question both for today, maybe a little bit tomorrow as well for our finance Q&A, and definitely for the legal one. But let's see what we can do. So maybe we can start with Tommy, then Guy, then Richard, then Alessandro, please. Let's try and keep it about a minute each, fellas.
Yeah, interesting question. It's always tricky when you've got these kind of things. I mean, the first thing I'd say is, whenever you've investors in tech businesses asking for ROI timeline, like, it's just kind of like picking stuff out of thin air. Like, you get your return on investment when an exit event happens, and you can have set all the milestones in the world you want for that, but if you're not in a position to list the business, which is definitely a long way off, and you don't have anyone coming to try and buy the business, then it doesn't really matter. You can't just give them the money back. I would say also, just in case this is happening, if they're trying to get you to commit to some sort of dividend structure, if you get to certain milestones in terms of revenue or profitability, like, I just wouldn't fight back on that hard, because it just gets so messy if they start expecting cash to be returned on dividends whilst waiting for an exit. You could always do a one-off exceptional dividends in the future if you have loads of cash. So I'd say my overall advice is to just kind of, it's hard, but be sort of tough or push back and say, look, this is a consumer tech business. The likelihood is we won't have an exit for, 5+ years. 5 is even ridiculously ambitious, but, it's 8-10+ years before there's a likely exit event. Now, you may have, if you get to Series B, you may be able to do some secondaries at a stage like that, where the, early investors can get money out, so you can say, look, as we grow and we raise more money, we'll look at secondary opportunities for you. But, like, you can't really commit to anything. You just have to try and explain to them this is the risk with investing in a private startup. So yeah, like, I understand it's difficult to manage, because you're trying to manage people who are investing money and want it back at a certain time period, but you also have to explain to them that there is a chance this gets locked up for 10+ years, aside from the risk of potentially losing everything. So, like, it's tough, and there's no clear answer I can give you, but I would try and just make sure you avoid pitfalls like committing to dividends or saying, we'll definitely pay money back at a date. Just don't write that into any term sheet or agreement.
Just strongly reiterate Tommy's final point, which is, do not sign up to having to give cash back at any point that you may not be able to deliver on, because you'd be in a world of pain. The answer is there's many different ways you could structure it, and I'd almost send it back to the syndicate to say, well, this is kind of, you guys are the sort of semi-professional investors. How do you see it happening? And maybe have two different options. Again, angel syndicates like EIS, if you get too complicated, they're going to lose that EIS ability. So that's something they've got to bear in mind. And just be very careful. Get some legal advice. I mean, I think there's a very well publicized case with Brewdog in the news a month or two ago where they essentially issued prefs that were compounding at something ridiculous like 18%, which they could never pay, and they were just accruing the interest, compounding 18%, and the valuation's not shifted. So it basically means that the holders of those prefs have diluted out the remaining investor pool to the point where if there's an exit at this valuation, the sort of orders will get nothing back. So make sure you have, legal advice to mitigate against any of those kind of issues. And yeah, as I said, put it back on the angel syndicate. Say, look, what have you done previously? What do you suggest doing? And try and keep it straightforward. 1 or 2 different options.
Thank you, Guy. I think we said Rich and then
Alessandro,
didn't we?
Next. A couple of points to reiterate. I had down as well what was just said by Guy to ask the syndicate. I feel that if you're going through the syndicate, they've got a fee, I imagine, for their services. So ask them for what they think the resolution is. But I would make the statement that, and the founders don't like to hear it, sometimes investors they're not the right investor for you. So that might be the case here. And I don't know whether the syndicate has the possibility to break up certain investors within that or not. Some do, some don't. I work with one of the biggest ones in the UK, and they certainly allow that. So that's something to investigate. The question begs also, are they all investing in the same amount? Is there a lead investor? Because usually the lead investor would set the terms, and if those terms are favourable and you agree to them, then as far as I'm concerned, I'd be, like the guys have said, push back. The rest should just comply to those terms from the lead investor. So we don't have that information, but that's something also to consider. And just finally, I mean, if this is an SEIS approved fund startup who's raising funds, I just wouldn't have thought that there'd be a problem with the investors talking about their ROI timelines. And considering that we just never see it when our founders are SEIS approved. And for those listening, it's a seed enterprise investment scheme by the government that gives tax breaks to investors. So that's also something I'd be raising. But yeah, that's all really I have on this.
Thanks a lot, Richard. Last but not least, Alessandro, please.
Yes, thanks, Anton. Yeah, I think a lot has already been said. So try not to repeat the same. The only thing I would say is that return expectation at the end of the day will result in the valuation and the terms. And so, as it has been said, normally you would have one lead investor determining the terms of the raise in terms of valuation and rights and protection and liquidation preference. And based on that, some of the angel investors will decide to invest, some others will not. But at the end of the day, they will have to make a judgment call whether they're comfortable with the valuation of the business based on the information they've received. So I think that's probably the best way, for an early stage business without overcomplicating with different asset classes or different risk return profiles. Because it would be a very early stage small raise with a number of angel investors. So that's all really to add. Thank you.
Thank you. In my modest little experience, if you're a startup, you've got about 99% chance to fail miserably. 99%, that is. And the two things, providing that everything else is fine, the product is good, people want it, all that jazz, the two things that are very likely to make or break you, despite everything else going well, it's issues with your co-founders and different terms for the same round. So don't bleed and complicate things. I know it's easier for me to say this because the survival of my startup is not on the line depending on getting money from those investors that you spoke with. But I really think once you have, at least in my experience, when you have different investors in the same round and they've got different terms, that's quite a recipe for disaster. So at least one of the fellas mentioned legal advice, definitely go for that. And, you know, you've got to sweeten the deal and try and find ways to keep them happy and interested. So maybe try and kind of frame it from that point of view as to, you know, why it is good for them not to have these different terms. But in my experience, that never works well. Well, we've got 2 minutes to go. If we take another question, we'll go over the line soon. Tell you what, maybe it's a good idea we wrap it up. So, Monsieurs, shall we go on to some parting words? And you can take that your time. I guess we'll go in the same order that we joined. So, Mr. Breen, Mr. Ppengele, Mr. Christina, no, Mr. Melle, and then Mr. Christina at the end, please.
Thanks, Anton. I'd say I'd just come back to a point I've made a few times. You know, software is rarely a moat now, and people can copy products overnight. So distribution is really, really important. And at the earliest stages, you need to think pretty deeply about how you're going to go and get customers and win customers without just spending on paid marketing if you can raise money. So, you know, think about what's your right to win. Are you setting up in an industry where you actually know potential distribution partners, or somebody else in the team has some background somewhere, or do you have a clever strategy? Are you involved in some sort of communities or anything like that? But you just have to think really clearly about where your customers are and how you're going to get to them. And it can't all just be, we're going to pay for Facebook ads to do it. So it is really, really important. And that's what sets you apart from the 19 other versions of the same product that are probably going to be out there whenever you're launching.
Yeah, it sounds obvious, but just know your material and your business plan inside out. And be ready to kind of answer any detail at any moment in time. We went into a pitch meeting back in April, didn't even do introductions, just got grilled and interrogated for 20 minutes into very, very, very deep detail of what we'd written in the business plan, and came through at the other side. But yeah, those are the kind of meetings that can make or break your company, because if you can get through it and you can demonstrate, you know exactly what you're talking about, you know what your strategy is, you know the numbers behind that, and you have a very clear plan that you're able to execute on, you know, that will set you in very good stead for those investor meetings and you know, kind of raising funding for your business.
Did you get the money, Guy?
I'll tell you in a couple of weeks. But we're very far down the track of getting there, so fingers crossed.
I'm sure you will. Good stuff. Go ahead. I think we said Alessandra, yep.
Yeah, fingers crossed with that. So from my side, I know that the entrepreneurial journey can be quite stressful and lonely. So I think it's very important to stay healthy and fit in the body, in the brain, in the mind, and staying positive and not being afraid to ask for help, because you're not alone. And so ask for help, and all the problems will always resolve themselves.
Is that me last?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yes, Santa. Is that me? Sorry.
Oops. Yes, Richard. Me and my fat thumbs. I keep pressing it. Yes,
yeah,
please,
that's
go
all
ahead.
right. I'm doing the same. Look, I've just got just a slightly different one. Interesting. I'm actually working with one of our founders who's in the middle of fundraising, and she's been too busy working on her business, like most founders are. And I said to her, "When's the last time you've been to an event?" And she said, "Oh, just too busy for it, Richard." And I go to as many as I can myself. I brought her along to a couple of them, and recently she met someone who's made an introduction, and they're now in discussions about her raise. So look, I'm not saying that that's the answer, but sometimes I think founders just get a little too busy to just drop the pens and the computer and go out and just network. And it might not be an investor, it might just be someone else who could help you, and in this case make an introduction for you. And those introductions are warmer, they're more personable, and I just think that's something that sometimes founders tend to let go because they're busy working on their product or something like that. So, you know, get out there and network.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much to all four of you, gentlemen. Really appreciate your time and valuable input today. Before my parting words, two things worth mentioning. Number one, this was Startup Fundraising Q&A, where we try to help you with your fundraising journey and questions. We run 6 regular sessions. Mondays it's talent, Tuesdays product and tech, Wednesdays it's growth, and Thursdays it's fundraising. Second Friday of each month it's UK Startup Law, and third Friday of each month it's UK Startup Finances. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. You can register to any future session via our website, startuptoscaleup.club. Simply scroll down and you'll see a list of future sessions. Whilst you're there, you may also want to join our WhatsApp community. And speaking of WhatsApp, I've just posted in the chat here the link to a group specifically created for the fundraising Q&A, which means founders can send questions ahead of each session. You can connect with each other, i.e. other founders, investors, and of course our operators and specialists and the panelists or mentors that join our Q&As. And you can also discuss various topics that we touch on here, as well as get help post Q&A. So please feel free to join that and share it with other UK founders as well. As far as my parting words are concerned, just remember the startup journey can be both exciting but also quite challenging. So try to have some fun and be kind to yourself and everyone else for that matter too. Otherwise, hopefully we'll see you tomorrow for Startup Finances Q&A. It's for UK startups. Get your questions ready, because lately we're not having many live questions in that finance Q&A, so it'd be good to get some of those in. Otherwise, have a great afternoon and God bless you all. Bye-bye for now.